Hello friends, welcome to my class once again. Today we shall discuss Joseph Addison's essay 6 Papers on Wheat, essay number 5. Let us find out what the essayist talks about in this essay. Now at the very beginning of this essay, the essayist refers to John Locke. Now we have to find out who John Locke is. John Locke is an English philosopher and physician. He is regarded as one of the most influential of the Enlightenment thinkers. Thinkers, philosophers who was writing during the Enlightenment period. Locke has differentiated between wit and judgment in his essay. What is the title of that essay which Locke had written? The title of the essay is Of Discerning and Other Operations of the Mind. Now, Addison refers to that essay to show the difference between wit and judgment. In that essay, Locke argues that wit and judgment are not the talents of the same person. So, one person cannot have a display of wit and judgment at the same time. Let us find out what he means by that. So for that we have to understand what wit means, what judgment means, and what reason means. Wit is the use of expressions to make the readers laugh. The use of clever expressions. That is the meaning of wit. Judgment is the ability to make considered decisions or come to sensible conclusions. Two things are there. You compare them, you evaluate them so that you compare and contrast how far they are similar and how they are different from each other, and you come to a definite conclusion, a sensible conclusion. If you do that, it is supposed that you have a great power of judgment. Reason is the power of the mind to think, understand, and form judgment. So it's the ability of a person to think and come to a conclusion. Now, Locke says that wit lies most in the assemblage of ideas and putting those together with quickness and variety. That is what he says. There must be resemblance and congruity between the ideas so that a pleasant picture can be made. So what does he mean by that? Wit lies most in the assemblage. Assemblage means the collection of ideas, and putting those with quickness and variety. You collect ideas and express your ideas in such a way that the reader who reads or the reader who across your ideas, he is amused, he is surprised, he finds something new and startling, something amusing, something extraordinary in your ideas. So there must be resemblance and congruity. Congruity is agreement, similarity. So there must be resemblance, similarity, sameness, congruity, sameness, similarity, agreement between the ideas so that a pleasant picture can be made. Now, he says, judgment on the other hand helps to separate one idea from the other. अच्छा केमिति आइडिया सेगुड़ा हेतिबे जजमेंट तुम केतेबेले यूज करो you use judgment when the ideas have the least difference. Least difference माने कोन there is very little difference between the two. There is so little difference between the two that there is every possibility of being misled and calling one thing the other. Dita idea ଭିତରେ ଏତେ similarity ଥିବ ଯେ unless you are very careful, unless you have the power of judgment, you cannot differentiate between the two. So if only you have the power of judgment, you can find out how those two ideas, which are similar in many respects, but they are different in some aspect, you will be able to find out what is that point of difference. Judgment, on the other hand, helps to separate one idea from the other, and these ideas must have the least difference. Least difference means सबसे कम difference. A person of judgment is not misled by their similitude. If a person has this power of judgment, he is not misled by their similarities. He tries to find out that point of difference, which may be very subtle, which may be very thin, a thin point of difference that differentiates one idea from the other. तो एते छोटो तार क्षीण थिबो तार से जो पॉइंट ऑफ डिफरेंस तो गोटे नॉर्मल लोक को से देखा जीवो जे आज बोथ दोस आइडियाज आर सिमिलर किंतु इफ यू आर ए पर्सन विथ यू नो ए गुड जजमेंट then you will be able to find out the difference. Addison says that every resemblance of ideas cannot be called wheat. तो दीटा सिमिलर जिनस को मु जदि लिखिदेली ताले सेटा जे दैट इज एन एक्सप्रेशन ऑफ व्हीट से कथा नुह ताले कौन आउ अधिया कौन दरकार the ideas in order to be called wheat must delight and surprise the reader. This is what Addison adds to the opinion of John Locke. He says two things are important. When it will be called wheat, na jettebele two ideas, when you are expressing ideas आइडिया दीटा को भितर सिमिलारिटी थिबो बट तुमे ताको एमिति एक्सप्रेस करिवो जे इट मस्ट बी एबल टू डिलाइट एंड सरप्राइज द रीडर दुईटा जिनिस तार थिबो ए दुईटा कैरेक्टरिस्टिक द आइडियाज इन ऑर्डर टू बी कॉल्ड व्हीट मस्ट डिलाइट द रीडर मस्ट मेक हिम हैप्पी must provide him joy, and at the same time it must surprise the reader. अरे एटा केमती कला एमती he gives a number of examples मु बुझे देबी से कथा the ideas should not lie too near one another in the nature of things, for where the likeness is obvious it gives no surprise. Right? गोटे लोकर कम्प्लेक्शन पूरा डार्क आउ गोटे कोइला पीस ऑफ कोल सेटा भी पूरा डार्क मु ताऊ कहबी ही इज डार्क कम्प्लेक्शन लाइक ए पीस ऑफ कोल ही इज डार्क कम्प्लेक्शन लाइक ए पीस ऑफ कोल इथरे कौन से माने द रीडर हु रीड्स दिस पर्टिकुलर लाइन ही इज नॉट सरप्राइज्ड और ही इज नॉट डिलाइटेड मु जदि आउ टिके आगु को ताकू नेबी से कहछन ए भले जदि जनरल काइंड ऑफ कंपैरिजंस यू मेक और जनरल you if you try to find out similarities common similarities like this then that is not the example of a wheat. In order to be called a wheat, it must be able to surprise the readers as well as delight the readers. Right? So, his complexion is as dark as black as a piece of coal, and so too is his heart. And so is his heart. So, here what I have done, here I have taken it one step forward. I have said that that man is not only black in color, dark in complexion, but at the same time, his heart is also dark in color. I mean, heart is also dark. I mean, instead of saying he's a bad person, I have indirectly said that he is so. He is a bad person. So this can be called a wheat. Addison gives an example. Of course, Addison doesn't give this example which I have given. Addison gives a different example. Let us find out what example Addison gives in his essay. Addison says to compare one man singing to that of another. There is nothing so surprising. There is nothing that delights us. You compare one man singing to that of another singing. To represent the whiteness of salt or whiteness of any object to that of the whiteness of milk or the whiteness of snow. To compare the variety of colors with that of the colors of the rainbow. These cannot be called wheat unless, besides the obvious resemblance, here the resemblance or similarity is obvious. What a number of colors thiba, mu taku compare kali, oh, these colors are similar to that of a rainbow. Or these colors, or the wall looks like, the colors on the wall look like the colors of the rainbow. Mujadi, if I compare like this, so that is not the case of a wheat. Here the comparison is obvious, quite clear, quite natural. ଏତିକି ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଆମେ ନର୍ମାଲ ଡେ ଟୁ ଡେ କନଭରସେସନରେ ଆମେ କରିଦଉଛେ. ସୋ ଯଦି ୱିଟ୍ ହବ ତାର କ'ଣ ଆଉ ରହିବା ସେଥିରେ ଦରକାର ନା ଦେୟାର ବି ସମ୍ ଫର୍ଦର କଂଗ୍ରୁଇଟି similarity discovered in the two ideas that is capable of giving the reader some surprise. So I must take it a little forward. I must take this comparison a little forward so that the reader, when he reads that, he is surprised or he is delighted. So the writing, the comparison, in order to be called a piece of wheat, must have or must be able to surprise the reader and amuse the reader, make him happy and delighted. When the poet tells that the bosom of his mistress is as white as snow, there is no wheat in the comparison. So snow is white, mistress's bosom is also white. But when he adds, when that that poet or the writer adds with a sigh that it is as cold too, it grows into a wheat. कौन हैला ताले से कहिला his mistress's bosom is as white as snow. So whiteness of the snow has been compared with the whiteness of his mistress's bosom. Kintu at the same time when he says it is as cold too, another point of similarity, cold, ताकू से ए भितर को आनिके पुरेले. So another point of similarity जेतले हैला snow is cold, this woman's heart is also cold. Tenu this grows into a wheat. So mere comparison on the first, if there is only one point of comparison, this can't be called a wheat. Now the writer differentiates between true wheat and false wheat. In the first four essays, he gives many examples of those forms of writing which he considers examples of false wit. Now he says how I differentiate between true wit and false wit. True wit, says Addison, consists in the resemblance and congruity of ideas. ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଆଇଡିଆଜ ଗୁଡାକର ସିମିଲାରିଟି ପରସ୍ପର ସାଙ୍ଗରେ କମ୍ପେୟାର କରିବା, କଂଗ୍ରୁଇଟି ମ୍ୟାଚ୍ କରୁଛନ୍ତି, ପରସ୍ପର ସାଙ୍ଗରେ ଗୁଡ୍ ରିଲେସନସିପ୍ ମେଣ୍ଟେନ୍ କରିକି ରଖିଛନ୍ତି, ଦେୟାର ଆର୍ ସିମିଲାରିଟିଜ, वी आर कंपेयरिंग द सिमिलारिटीज, ये सब जिनस आम करुचे दुईटा आइडियार, ताहले दिस विल बी an example of true wit. Ideas गुड़ाक जितेबाला आम कंपेयर करवा, that will be, those will be the examples of true wit. किंतु false wit कहले से कौन मीन करुचंदी? False wit chiefly consists in the resemblance and congruity of single letters. से कहते तुम गोटे सिंगल लेटर को चेंज कर देले, टीचर टी फॉर समथिंग, ई फॉर समथिंग, ए फॉर समथिंग. I have already discussed all these with you while discussing the first four essays. से कहते जदि आइडिया न हो कि गोटे लेटर उपरे सेठी आमे स्किल देखेले, ताले that is an example of false wit. तेणु anagrams, chronograms, lipograms, acrostics, these are all examples of false wit. बेले बेले हमें sometimes we use syllables. We go to the extent of changing the syllables. As in case of doggerel rhymes, we have already discussed that. So that is also an example of false wit. Puns, same word but having different meanings. In one sentence you use them in different ways. So puns, how quibbles, how these are also examples of false wit. And sometimes of whole sentences of poems cast into the figures of eggs, axes, altars. The first poem essay ame padhithile je when poems are written in the form of eggs, axes or altars, those are also examples of false wit. Kaiki se कहउछन्ते either single letter हो, कोठी गोटे syllable change कर देकरी हो, बा आउ कोठी गोटे poem टा को नेकी गोटे particular shape becomes important, not the poem or not the subject matter. So सेही बेले जिनस गुडाक, these are all examples of false wit. किंतु when we express the resemblance, similarity or congruity, how ideas connect, how they are similar, how similar ideas connect to each other, ये कथा गुडाक जदि करिबा, these will be examples of true wit. Otherwise जदि केवल गोटे लेटर कथा कहबा, syllable कथा कहबा, poems of different shapes कथा कहबा, I don't think these are examples of true wit. According to Addison, these are examples of false wit. To these two, Addison adds another kind of wit, which he calls mixed wit. Addison talks of another type of wit, mixed wit. So according to Addison, there are three types of wit. One is true wit, the second one is false wit, and the third one is mixed wit. This consists partly in the resemblance of ideas and partly in the resemblance of words. So mixed wit is a kind of combination of true wit and false wit. True wit ru kichi naba, false wit ru kichi naba, you combine these two and that is called mixed wit. The essayist gives an account of the writers who used false wit, who used mixed wit, or who didn't use mixed wit at all. He says, this kind of wit abounds in Abraham Cowley more than any other writer. He says, Abraham Cowley made use of this to the greatest possible extent. Mr. Waller, who is Mr. Waller? Edmund Waller, an English poet, makes abundant use of it, plentiful. Like Abraham Cowley, he makes a lot of, he uses a lot of uh, mixed wheat. But Mr. Dryden used it sparingly. Sparingly means very little. Only at times he used that. And Milton and Spencer, they were two great writers to use mixed wheat. Means they didn't use mixed wheat at all. The essayist says that even the Italians used mixed wheat in their epic poetry. The Greek writers, except the epigrammatists, didn't use it. Italians used mixed wheat in their epic poetry. Greek writers, except the epigrammatists, did not use them. And among the Latin writers, Virgil, Lucretius, Catullus did not use those, but Horace used it sparingly, at times only, in some of his works. But Ovid and Martial used mixed wheat in plenty. So in the first part of this essay, Addison talks about what he means by false wheat, what he means by true wheat. To these two, he adds a third one. The third one is called mixed wheat. So, dear friends, I hope you will now be able to answer the questions. Thank you very much.